Hey everybody, welcome to the live stream. It's Rager Crypto. We've got another day in the crypto market with some stuff to talk about because I want you guys to be prepared for what's to come here in the next few days. So welcome, and we'll go ahead and get started shortly. But as always, nothing is financial advice, as you already know that. But what I want to talk to you about today is FOMC meeting minutes that actually came out today. And really what happened was they broke down what was said last month in the meeting. And so there's not a FOMC meeting from the Federal Reserve this month. That is prepared for September. But we are going to have a discussion and talk from Fed Chair Powell here Friday at Jackson Hole, and that is going to probably set way what could happen in the coming weeks to the market, whether or not we get a rally or whether or not we get a massive pullback going into the rate cuts into September. So what I want you to know is just really break that down for you, what was said today. I want to go ahead and share my screen, and again, let's go ahead and look at the Bitcoin chart and break that down because I want to talk to you about how Bitcoin and crypto have actually bounced today, even though the news was actually a bit hawkish, meaning that no rate cuts in September. For the fact that if you even go and look at the Fed Watch on CME Group, it dropped from 84% to 80%. Now, that's not a substantial drop whatsoever, but it is a 4% drop. We went from 100% last week to 85% to now 80%. So it looks like every day that we go along, there's less and less certainty about rate cuts in September. And as you know, those rate cuts are what are going to cause the uptick in risk assets. So just to let you know, we have had a reduction of around 4% there with the rate cut probability. But Bitcoin did bounce. I do want to talk about Bitcoin and some other stuff here, ETH, Solana, some stuff as far as Bonk Fund, some low caps. If you're interested in that, you can stay for that. But let's go ahead and break it down. How do you need to prepare? What do you need to know? And I'll be honest with you, in the next 15 to 17 hours, when they release the jobless claims, you need to be ready for that. So that's going to be at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, from my knowledge, that they're going to release that information. And so you need to be ready for that, because based on what they say, that could actually set up what happens. Now, let's go ahead and break down what was said in the FOMC meeting minutes. And this is actually a quite good breakdown. And so I'll go ahead and share it here. July, FOMC meeting minutes from Michael Brown. Fed, majority saw inflation risk outweighing employment risk. Okay? So what they mean by that is that the risk of just overall inflation is worse for the economy than employment. So how does this set you up for tomorrow? How does this prepare you? Well, I'll go ahead and let you know. If the jobless claims come back tomorrow and they're not low, right? If unemployment is actually fine, there's not a lot of unemployment, it comes back better, that is probably going to set the market to dump, for the fact that they've already said right here that majority saw that inflation risk outweighs employment risk. Unless the employment is bad, it's probably not going to motivate them to cut those rates. So I'll go ahead and tell you that right now, that if the jobless claims come back tomorrow and the job unemployment isn't high, right? People have jobs, people are stable, then I think it's going to pull back the market. That's going to be in the next 15, 17 hours. So they're already telling you that right now for you to have a clue of based on what the outcome is tomorrow. Now, even if it's really good, if there's a lot of people with jobs, unemployment is really low, there could be a potential that goes into Friday and Fed Chair Powell does give a talk that's a little less hawkish tone than what we saw in the FOMC meeting minutes. So several from the Fed expected companies would pass tariffs to customers, meaning again, those tariffs cause prices to be increased for customers. Increased prices, that's inflation. Okay, so they're still a little bit worried about tariffs overall. And they also said that the full effective tariffs could take some time. So again, with this uncertainty, if they don't know how long this inflation could last, if it could go on for months and months, they're not for certain. That also gives them caution to cut rates as well. So these are the things that were said in last month's FOMC meeting minutes. And what you need to know is basically they're saying that they're still uncertain about the current inflation and that inflation still trumps the job market and unemployment. And lastly, several flagged risk of inflation expectations unanchoring. Again, inflation is a risk, and they make that known several times. Now, if you go into this, there's a good FOMC meeting minute summary from Cam. I don't know exactly who that was, but basically, if you look at the headline and it says right there, the Fed minutes look hawkish, but may be out of date. And as you know, with the crypto market, with TradFi, with the economy, things move really fast and things can be quickly outdated, not only a month, but even in a week, even in days, right? We see stuff that's outdated within days all the time in this market. So to understand that even though this was a bit of a hawkish headline, this is a bit of a hawkish FOMC meeting minutes, doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the same tone that that Powell has in the speech on Friday. So just to understand that. Now, that's what was said. And as far as that goes, I want to see if there's anything else with my notes. Basically, tariffs take time. Remember that. It's going to take some time. And the Fed's not going to necessarily rush those rate cuts, even if the labor market looks weaker. Okay, tariffs keep them cautious. So it really, really needs to be weak, the unemployment, right? So we want to see that. And as far as asset valuation, they even talked about that as well, which is really surprising because if you go and you look at the SPX at the stock market, it's at all-time highs, and they actually flagged concerns that stocks and other assets may be overpriced from what I take of it. And so maybe a code for financial stability risk on the radar. Again, if the markets keep ripping and looking strong regardless, that probably doesn't give the Fed a need to want. They don't want to create bubbles, but Fed Chair Powell has already said that they have nothing to do with the stock market. They don't control the markets, and they'll sometimes look at that. But I think that that's a little less of importance as the overall inflation. Inflation trumps jobs, and tariffs take longer overall. Now, we did have an initial breakdown in the market. If I go to the lower time frame charts, when that came out, we did have a little bit of a pullback. Now, it wasn't a lot, but we did have a little bit of a pullback. Initially, earlier in the day, stocks, everything, it broke down. Crypto broke down more, did have a bounce. Then the news came out. We had a pullback in the markets overall. If you look at Bitcoin as well, you can actually see the wick. Let me go to the 1 hour here. Let's see here. I think this is it. So we broke down from 14K down to 114K, not 14K, to down to 113. And of course, it bounced from there. So initially, I think why this is happening, why we get that price action is because initially it looked very hawkish. And people initially looked at it and they said, this is a hawkish tone from the Fed. They're really worried about inflation. They're probably not going to cut rates now. And you even saw, again, the Fed watch rate probability go from 85 to 80% rate cuts. Okay, so that is all the information as far as that goes. Initially, we did have a pullback, but the good news is that the markets, both stocks as well as crypto, did bounce after that. Now, you can see with Bitcoin right here that it looks pretty good. It's really just going sideways, right? It dipped down to 112 over the past 48 hours. We've bounced since then, and it's just going a little bit sideways. So a nice bounce, but there's still some uncertainty there. There's still some uncertainty, but alts actually look better than Bitcoin. If you want to go and look at the 30-minute chart for the Bitcoin dominance, what are you going to notice? That the chart has actually broken down from 60% down to 59%, about a 1% decrease in Bitcoin dominance since this news came out, which means that the initial dip brought a bounce, and those bounces were more apparent in altcoins outside of Bitcoin. Now, we did see Ethereum look pretty good. Notice the bounce in Ethereum looked much better, right? Here over the past few hours from 4,100 up to 43. And so Ethereum is looking decent right now. Now, one of the strongest assets at the moment, Link has been really strong, but Solana has actually been strong. This is the 4-hour chart on Solana. Just notice that it's still in an uptrend overall over the past few months. Higher lows, higher highs, overall looking pretty good. And as far as the bounce for Solana, initially hit down to 177 and it's hit as high as 187. So that's a pretty good bounce for Solana. Solana's looking pretty strong right now when it comes to the overall markets. So just understand, oh, my camera froze again. And so it's done that here several times now. But we'll take the camera off. You guys can still hear me. You can still see the screen share, and that's how we'll continue to do. I'll figure out the camera component, and so I think that has to probably do with whatever it is, the bit rates, as far as that goes. I'm not for sure, but I'll go ahead and try to correct that. But bottom line, just know that we want to continue to watch Solana as a leading crypto coin because it has looked pretty strong. And let's go ahead and take a look at Link. I've not yet pulled up that chart. I do like Solana. There's a lot of chirp about Solana. Let's check out Link. Link is it's just so good right now. So again, if you have exposure, look at the hourly chart. It's looking to put in a new high, a local high. So Chainlink on any dip is one that I'm buying. It's just so strong right now. Solana, there's a lot of chirp right now on Solana talking about how there's going to be treasuries of Solana coming back in. So just know that there's a lot of talk about Solana treasuries, and that's a big deal right now as far as rumor. So with rumors, you tend to buy rumors, and I think that's currently what's happening, especially when it comes to Solana. You're seeing a little bit more strength in that compared to Ethereum. So just know Solana, Ethereum looks pretty good, but right now, Link and Solana are two of the stronger majors. And if you're looking to buy dips or DCA, these are the two that you want to be in, even more than Ethereum right now. And all three, though, are looking stronger than Bitcoin. Now, again, I am bullish Bitcoin. You could say a Bitcoin maxi as far as a store of value, but when it comes to trading, when it comes to making money in this market, I'm always going to trade altcoins more than anything. I've made a lot of money in my time with altcoins. I believe it's the best way that you can stack sats outside of just dollar cost averaging, and they give great rewards as far as trades go. All right, so we do know more volatility, but Bitcoin right here on the 1-hour chart, again, looking pretty good, a little sideways. But if we get any type of claims tomorrow that are really bad unemployment, as much as you hate to say that, right? Really bad unemployment. I expect Bitcoin to push up, maybe even up to here to 116. So kind of the same areas that we're looking at. I want to see Bitcoin come back above 116 here. I want to see it flip back above that range, right? Support, resist. So notice that. And again, there's a lot of self-fulfilling prophecies in this and with TA. And notice how this rejected, this flipped to support. Bitcoin came up, hit new highs or so, came down, broke below this level, flipped to resistance, could not break above it, and then broke back down. So again, this is kind of the key area that you want to watch for a Bitcoin bounce. Can Bitcoin come back above and break above 116? Basically, I think 117 is probably a good price to look at. If price comes back up here, and for any reason, I could see that happens tomorrow if there's bad unemployment, and so which means higher rate cuts likely. And so that would then go up, and then maybe Friday this is kind of the area there where Bitcoin would sit at. And of course, if Powell gave any type of hawkish talk, that it would break back down. But if he gave some good talk about rate cuts, then it would maybe continue on up from there. Me speculating, if he does give good talks about rate cuts and price moves up for Bitcoin, I mean, I think that price can continue to move up, and eventually in September, it'll maybe break back down. I don't know exactly where, but I'm just saying here in the coming weeks, it'll move up and then eventually break back down as the Fed cuts rates, and that'll be the sell the news. If not, we could have an early breakdown here. And unfortunately, even though you don't want to hear this, unfortunately, if there's hawkish talk, if it's not good, then I do foresee Bitcoin breaking the 112 area, maybe continuing down in this range over here. Okay, as low as one, not below 100, but as low as 102, 103, potentially. I got to give you both scenarios, right? Because I don't want to sit here and say it's going to do this or going to do that, because nobody knows. And if they tell you that they know, they're full of it. I've been in this market for a really long time, and some of the best traders that I know, I'm talking about 8 figures, 9 figures, they'll tell you that they straight up don't know. They just prepare for each scenario. And so that's what you have to do. And then based on that, you find your entries to short, to long, to buy, spot. And so that's the area we're looking at, 116 here. Can it break above it? We'll have to look and see how jobless claims come tomorrow. We'll have to look and see how Powell talks here on Friday. So overall, that's really what we're looking at when it comes to the majors. And as far as that goes too, let's go ahead and talk about some few other things. So one thing that has been pretty big news, as I said, well, don't fade the power of Bonk and Bonk Eco. So Bonk, if any of you, if you trade altcoins, if you're into memes, if you're into small caps, I think, there's a big fight or war against Pump Fund and Bonk Fund. And, basically Bonk is being challenged by Pump, and they've just introduced more and more rewards for users, for creators. And I'm just saying this overall because it's good for the overall Bonk price as well as any Bonk ecosystem. So if I were to go to, the Bonk chart, right? Because Bonk is basically a top 50 token. You're going to see that it's showing strength as well here. Bonk looks pretty good. And there's a lot of reason for me to believe. My old prediction was it was going to break up, but then we had all the news with the bearishness and it broke down. But overall, could be a potential bottom here for Bonk based on what news we see from the Federal Reserve this week if crypto bounces. And so, again, I do believe that we'll eventually see new highs. I can't tell you when. That's not my job. I'm just saying that overall, they seem to be a very strong asset because, again, with their ecosystem, they make a lot of money, and that money goes back to buy bonk. But I do think that there will be some strength in that, as well as there was news about how Magic Eden, which is also a pretty big ecosystem, Magic Eden with their coin and everything as well too, but they're having a partnership to where you can basically stake and use bonk assets along with Magic Eden and win rewards. So you're seeing some powerhouses here combined together in crypto to continue to gain traction from retail, from users, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing overall, because in a bullish market environment, these things are going to do really well. And I think as bonk continues to build, that it will continue to be a good overall asset as far as something to potentially DCA in. If you're into that, if you're only into Bitcoin, Ethereum, Link, Solana, the majors, that's totally fine as well. But just do know that bonk is a major token when it comes to crypto overall. It's been really strong, and we do know that they do have a lot of support now. So with that said, that was probably the one thing that I wanted to look at overall. Understand too, the winner yesterday, Javik, I did send your Bitcoin today before the live stream, so I know that DMs, a lot of times I'll ask you guys when we have these giveaways to post your link in the comments, and YouTube a lot of times will block those. I can see those on the back end, so I'll have to go and search for those. So just understand that I did see that. I did send you your Bitcoin. You should have $100 in Bitcoin in your wallet. If not, it'll soon be there, because Bitcoin, we know, sometimes can be slow with the network. But understand that I did send that, and we'll have more winners, more contests here in the future, okay? We'll continue to do that. I do believe that it's a fantastic way to give back to people, and so we'll continue to do those giveaways, okay? So I think as far as that goes, that's really it for me. I just really wanted to talk to you guys about the importance of how to prepare here in the coming couple of days when it comes to Bitcoin and these rate cuts, and what to watch for, and what the FOMC meetings minutes, what they meant, to really break those down, to really show you guys that it is the fact that they are really looking at the overall inflation risk as the main factor here, and not necessarily the job market. But if the job market is really bad, then it is still likely that it can push the Fed to want to cut rates. So after the jobless claims comes out tomorrow, I think we'll see a reaction in the market. Then I'll probably even go over here later to see the CME Fed watch to see what they say as far as that goes, as far as, is this going to decrease even more substantially, or is this going to push back up to, say, over 90%? I think it'll be very, very interesting, and this is very telling with what people think when it comes to the overall market, okay, and predictions. So that's really it for me, guys. And so, yeah, again, bottom line, a lot to prepare for tomorrow. So you have to know that with this hawkish news, we want to make sure that the jobless claim is actually pretty high, unemployment's high, and if that is the case, we'll also have Walmart earnings also on Thursday. On Friday, I'll probably jump back on here for another live stream and talk about what Fed Powell said, and based on that, what we can look ahead as far as Bitcoin price, whether it will reject here or whether we'll see Bitcoin price hold here and move back up here for the coming days to weeks prior to the FOMC meeting in September. All right. So, all right, guys. That's it for me today. I just wanted to give you a quick live stream. We'll continue to make some more videos this week. We'll continue to have more Bitcoin giveaways. And then as far as that goes, be on the lookout for that. If you've not yet subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do that, because each and every week we want to have some Bitcoin giveaways. I want you to be a subscriber and comment also on the videos. We'll try to make sure to do more of those here in the next week. All right. Well, with that said, you guys be on the lookout tomorrow, 8:30 Eastern time zone. So, Yeah, no, as far as that goes, Javik, man, I'll make sure that you get your Bitcoin, man. Don't worry about it. You're in the comments. I don't think I sent it to the wrong person. I'll confirm with you, okay? Don't worry. If you don't get it today, you'll get it tomorrow. I'll recheck your address. If I did send it to the wrong one, it's not a big deal. It's $100, which is a lot of money, but it's enough to where I can resend again if that's the case, okay? So with that said, you guys have a great day. Be on the lookout tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern a.m. for the jobless claims, and get on the charts to see how the reaction is to the market, because you're going to want to be able to pay attention to that regardless of where you're at in the world, whether you're in Europe, Asia, America, wherever. You want to be on at 8:30 Eastern and be on the lookout to see what those jobless claims are, and you're going to see probably a strong reaction in the market based on that. So that's your to-do list. And I'll talk to you guys soon. I'll see you online. You guys continue to trade safe.